Ah!
What's wrong, Sean?
What's wrong with Nintendo? I try to save my totally brilliant Excitebike tracks, but whenever I reset the game, they're gone! Look at this. The label even says Programmable Series. What else could it mean? The battery in this thing must be shot. That's another $5 wasted. Not even the Famicom versions work.
You know that Excitebike didn't use a battery backup cartridge, right?
Why didn't you tell me sooner?
We did touch on this a long time ago.
Oh, really? When?
Think back to our second ever episode.
Oh, sure. The Famicom Disk System. Ooh.
The Famicom Disk System.
No, after that.
Oh.
じゃあ、どうだろうな、これ。Who said that?
But consoles can't talk.
No, not that one either.
Ooh, sorry.
1984, Nintendo released the Data Recorder, which works with some cartridge-based games such as Excitebike.
Oh man, I love Excitebike. Where's my Wii remote?
Don't you feel like we glossed over something all those years ago when we first covered the Famicom?
What do you mean?
助けてください。
What would you say if I told you there was a way to save data on Famicom cartridges from before the battery backup, and even before the Famicom disk system?
What? Really?
Well, only 3 titles. Excitebike, Mach Rider, and Wrecking Crew.
Oh, that sounds lame.
Do you have a data recorder lying around?
No. No. Ah.
The Famicom data recorder was released by Nintendo in 1984. On the top is the built-in microphone, the enormous speaker, look at that crazy grill, and all the control buttons for rewinding, fast-forwarding, playing, and recording cassette tapes. On the left is the volume dial, the microphone save input, and the earphone load output. You can power it with an AC adapter. Or, similar to the Famicom disk system, run it on 4 much smaller, AA-sized batteries. Otherwise, aside from that and the Famicom color scheme, it's just like any tape deck you could pick up just about anywhere in the 1980s.
Normal? How can you call that normal? Is creme brulee a normal pudding? Were the Beatles a normal boy band?
Well, what makes it different from any other tape deck you could get?
Whatever. This was clearly meant for bigger things than recording every crazy thought that popped into your head.
Those Beatles should get haircuts. And a real job.
I mean, now we can do it all on these digital devices, so what's the big deal?
But Nintendo didn't have access to technology like that 30 years ago. Before there were computers with no moving parts that could be kept in your pocket.
Siri, get off my lawn.
I didn't find any lawn and garden services.
That's okay. At least you're talking to me.
People would record audio to a strip of magnetic tape called an audio cassette.
Whoa, dial it back there, Chief.
Do you even know what this has to do with this?
That takes me back. I remember back in the old days, I'd save up an entire barrel full of nickels just to roll that barrel of nickels down the hill, I guess.
And it wasn't enough to just push the record button. Oh no. You had to put in a tape and push play and record. Don't ask, it was the 80s. And more often than not, say something vulgar.
Belgium.
But in the case of the data recorder, if you had something plugged into the microphone or save jack, it would pick up audio from that instead of the built-in microphone. Fortunately, unlike cassette tapes, cables with 3.5mm jacks are not yet outdated technology and can still be picked up just about anywhere.
Okay, but where's the data recorder get the signal? I had looked all over the Famicom and couldn't find a place to plug these in.
That's because the data recorder required the Famicom keyboard to operate.
Great! We can introduce the keyboard in Family Basic. Ah.
Plug the keyboard into the Famicom expansion port. Plug in the data recorder. Make sure you're recording on the data recorder. And this is what happens when you try to save your tracks in Excitebike.
Whoa.
Don't forget to push stop. Mach Rider also has a track creation system like Excitebike, but it's fairly different. Is that even playable?
Shh. Don't question the genius.
Are you sure you want to save it?
Yeah, totally.
Wrecking Crew also had a save function, but you could only load and save 4 tracks at once.
This must bring back memories, right?
I don't know what you mean. What are you making?
I don't know. I've never played this game. I don't even know what the difference is between these doors.
You know, back in my day, we didn't have all these newfangled magnetized tapes. We had victory cabbage.
Tell me more, Grandpappy.
We used punch cards, and we liked it. All my years carefully punching out all these holes. Wasted! Wasted! You guys have it so easy.
And what do you have there?
Oh, this? Only the best level ever. It's all ladders!
Did I say 3 games? There was actually one more, and it was excellent. Castle Excellent.
Excellent!
Created by ASCII Corporation, Castle Excellent was the only third-party game to use the data recorder, and it was also the last. It was released the same year as the Famicom Disk System. Castle Excellent is actually a sequel to a game called The Castle, released on SG-1000, MSX, and a number of other systems that weren't the Famicom. So it's actually possible that it was released on cassette tape on one platform or another.
Okay, so how do I save custom levels?
Ah, you don't. In this game you actually save progress.
How novel.
Alternately, you could also save progress to ASCII's Turbo File peripheral, which we didn't have in time for filming this episode, but it supports all these games. But that is really another story entirely.
Someday, Wizardry 3. Someday.
But if all you have is a data recorder,
Okay, so now I have saved data for 4 different games on one tape. How am I supposed to load it again?
you'll have to rewind it.
You mean I have to use my hands? It's like a baby's toy. What, the Famicom doesn't control the tape deck through the keyboard?
I'm afraid not. It only sends out a signal to save games, and reads one only after you manually press play.
Oh, what a pain. How will I know how far back to go?
Try it now. Whoops, I think you went too far. In order to load your data again, you'll need to cue the tape to the proper spot and press the play button. Keep playing the tape until the game has told you it's loaded all your data. Or errors out. Or does nothing at all.
That is, oh, it's something. So what if I don't want to deal with all of that?
Well, you're not totally out of luck. Wrecking Crew also had a Famicom Disk System version.
As we know all too well.
It's identical to the cartridge version, except when you go to save your data, it'll work.
Oh, much easier and faster. Although I looked in a copy of Hyrule Historia and I didn't see this game listed anywhere. Ah! What about Excitebike?
The cartridge version never got a disk system release. But they did make a port of the Versus Excitebike arcade game.
The what? It's a two-player version.
If you think that's something, check out the all-new track editor.
Oh, baby. Where have you been all my life?
Nintendo also revamped the save system to make creating custom tracks a lot easier.
Oh man, this is way cool. I forgot the data recorder. This is where it's at. I mean, who has time to remember which games to save on which tapes and in what order? Although, you know, I mean, I guess I could just save my voice on the data recorder describing what I'm about to save, but who has the time or patience for that?
Well, there is a way to use the cartridge versions of these games without a data recorder, but it still requires the family keyboard. Because it's just a normal tape deck, the Famicom is saving analog sound data to your cassette tapes. Since it's just sound, it doesn't even need to be recorded onto tape. The save cable can be plugged into anything with a microphone input or a headphone output.
What, like a surround sound system?
No, I was thinking more like a computer.
I guess that does make more sense.
Once you've recorded your analog audio into a digital sound file, it's pretty trivial to play it back through the headphone jack to the Famicom to load it again. Or share it with friends over the internet as MP3s or something.
Oh, will that work?
Let's try it.
In here, I thought the Famicom disk system took a long time to load. Yep.
I hope he took his salve.
Whoa. All right, so wait, you're telling me that I can finally share my brilliant tracks with other people?
Sure.
Yes. No, wait, that's no good. I mean, how many people have these games and a Famicom and a family keyboard, to say nothing of the data recorder? Please tell me there's something I can do with these NES versions.
I'm afraid not.
Farnugan.
The NES versions of Excitebike, Mach Rider, and Wrecking Crew are identical to the Famicom cartridge versions. If you're lucky, you might even find a Famicom converter inside. We explained this in more detail in our Season 1 episode, Cartridges and Pins.
This was a cost-saving device to use existing boards rather than tool completely new boards for an unchanged game.
The Game Boy Advance e-reader version of Excitebike was even reprogrammed to completely take out the load and save functionality of the original version.
Okay, but why not reprogram the NES cards too?
Well, ASCII did just that for Castlequest, the NES version of Castle Excellent. Because there was no way to save data, and the original game was too difficult to beat without saving your progress, ASCII upped the life count from 4 to 50. As for Nintendo, they probably just wanted to save money, but they did own the console and did plan to release some form of off-cartridge storage solution. We already know that although the NES had an expansion port, Nintendo never released the Famicom Disk System, data recorder, or anything else in the US. By the time the NES was released in 1985, Nintendo was far more focused on marketing a toy than they were a family computer. So the Nintendo AVS, which was shown at CES in 1984, that included a built-in keyboard and tape drive, never saw the light of day. Do you have a manual for any of these games?
Sure do. Oh, this one's Japanese. To the internet!
Look under Saving and Loading.
The load and save functions have been programmed in for future product developments. Wait, so I wasted all this time and money because Nintendo didn't follow through with one of their own plans?
You think that's bad? I got my copy of Excitebike from a friend and it didn't have the manual at all. I just figured I wasn't waiting long enough for the game file to save. One summer in the 1980s, I spent the entire day waiting for my creation to save, only to have it go away when the power turned off.
Rolling down! Alright, so the data recorder was kind of a neat idea for its time, but really cumbersome. The computer can make that a bit better, but you still need to own a Famicom and a keyboard to make it work. And if you own any of the NES games, you're SOL.
Well, that's not entirely true.
Really? But I thought you said...
Some ports, like Excitebike for the Game Boy Advance NES Classic series, removed the save functionality, in this case making it identical to the e-reader version. However, you can download some or all of these games from the Nintendo eShop. The Wii and Wii U Virtual Console versions of Excitebike, Mach Rider, and Wrecking Crew are the same as the original cartridges, but can emulate saving data to the data recorder. And it restores way faster. The 3DS 3D Classics version also has a re-engineered save screen like Versus Excitebike for the Famicom Disk System.
What?
There's also Excitebike World Rally on the Wii Shop. And then there's the Satellaview version for the Super Famicom, which replaced the racers with Mario characters. So you could have saved yourself a lot of time messing around with the data recorder. Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you for watching this episode of Famicom Dojo. You can read more about the data recorder and its games in our show notes. Plus, download MP3 copies of the save files we used in this episode. And of course, watch our Season 1 episodes where we talk more about the NES expansions that never were, or how to find converters in your NES cartridges. Say thank you, Sean.
Thank you!
Until next time.
ファミコン道場次回
Here, I made you a tape with all my favorite tracks.
Oh, how sweet. Thanks? kind of music he likes?
Boy, I hope she likes those cool tracks.
Famicom Dojo.
Because if she doesn't, I'm gonna turn myself white and then move to Japan. That'll show him.
Is there at least any dubstep on here?